What we learned from Manchester United's first game of the season. Today we're going to dive into tactics, stats and analysis and break down Ruben Amorim's opening match of the Premier League season. There were some really interesting things tactically that we're going to talk about later on in the video. Of course, if you're new around here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. But anyway, let's get this party started. So the first thing we learned in the opening game of the season for Manchester United is they need a new goalkeeper. This isn't going to be the most revolutionary analysis on this channel, but United need a new number one. Ruben Amorim's side lost another game of football they dominated because of an individual goalkeeping error. If we take a look at the expected goals from open play, Manchester United had 1.35, Arsenal 0.29. The best team lost the game. It was a real tale of two goalkeepers. David Raya made 7 saves, the most in the opening weekend of the Premier League, whereas Dave managed just 2, and his error directly led to Calafiori's winner from a corner. Conceding simple goals when United are on top through individual errors has become a bit of a trademark of Manchester United over the last 2 seasons. Andre Onana's had 8 errors leading to goals since moving to United, and Dave hasn't had many starts, but he's shown why, giving goals away against Newcastle, Spurs and now Arsenal. Even before then, David De Gea's form had been sliding for a while before he left, and his errors were becoming more and more common in his goalkeeping. United don't just need a number 2 to replace Dave, but they need a number 1 genuinely capable of pushing Andre Onana. I think if you look at Manchester United in the recruitment, it's been a massive hole. Radu Vitek would be an interesting option, but a loan spell at Bristol City is much better for him, and next season he could come back and potentially challenge for that number 1 slot. In terms of players that I've been looking at that are in and around Europe, but also around South America that could potentially come in, we're looking at Victor John from Botafogo. He's a keeper that's really coming into his prime, a good shot stopper that's excelled not only in the Brazilian league, but the Copa Libertadores as well. Alternatively, go to Belgium and go to Antwerp and sign Lemens from Royal Antwerp. He's a keeper that is very, very good, ranking in the top 1% of goalkeepers for post-shot expected goals numbers last season. Not only that, but his save percentage was above 80%. That is elite level numbers, and he can really deal with crosses. I think one of the big things about Manchester United, and let's say why they're being linked with someone like Donnarumma, is Ruben Amorim doesn't need a goalkeeper that excels out the back like an Edison for Manchester City under Pep Guardiola, but he needs a good shot stopper, a good 1v1 keeper, and Donnarumma would be the number 1 choice. But again, his wages are going to be quite expensive, and of course the fee that they've got to pay PSG, independent of his contract expiring in the next season. Manchester United might not want to go and do business with PSG after they bought Man Utd for 50 million quid. Anyway, my number 1 choice for the goalkeeping position would be Lemens, and I think he's a keeper that could really grow under Ruben Amorim. So that'd be my first thing Manchester United need to learn from: buying a new goalkeeper, going to Antwerp and signing their number 1. On to the second thing that we learned in the opening day of the season against Arsenal is that Amorim's build-up works in the Premier League. So talking Ruben Amorim's build-up versus Manchester United, again Arsenal set up in a 4-3-3 structure, Manchester United with a 3-4-3. But in terms of the build-up, there is a lot of change. Number 1, Matthijs de Ligt jumps into midfield, pushing Bruno Fernandes a little bit higher. What this creates for Manchester United is a back 3 with Dave. Why this is super important, because for Dave coming into this back line, you can draw the first line of pressure from Arsenal. In terms of the midfield, of course, Matthijs de Ligt played next to Casemiro as a bit of a double pivot, creating a 3-2 structure. Both wing-backs for Manchester United were in slightly advanced positions, again offering an out ball. The reason why this was so good against Arsenal not only was the fact that United had the confidence to do it now this season, but the football was quite quick, which opened up a lot of different combinations and situations. One of the big reasons why this overloaded Arsenal's pressing structure, their kind of 4-3-3 shape, is that not only did Bruno Fernandes overload that midfield line, because what we kind of saw was Ødegaard went super tight on De Ligt, Rice went super tight on Casemiro, but also Matheus Cunha was dropping off the line, which was taking the attention of Zubimendi. So basically United had a real free player in Bruno Fernandes. What that meant is that United could play direct to Bruno Fernandes, or do what they did quite a bit, which I really enjoyed, was playing into the feet of Matthijs de Ligt and then bouncing themselves out. So dropping the ball into the midfield after, of course, Victor Gokres had come and pressed the goalkeeper, and then simply bouncing out to allow the outside centre-halves to carry forward, simply progressing the play for Manchester United, because Diogo Dalot would pin Martinelli, which would allow Leny Yoro to move into an advanced area and then play forward. In fact, only Bryan Mbeumo carried the ball a greater progressive distance than Leny Yoro for Manchester United. This is really important because it gives United a really simple way to progress the play, an area that they struggled with last season. This kind of wasn't really possible consistently last season because of the personnel. I think Matthijs de Ligt has looked much better for Manchester United this season. He's looked sharper, he's looked fitter, arguably the best de Ligt we've seen since the days of Ajax. But I think the big thing here, overloading the press. Not only have we got that situation to get out through the carry, but also direct passes into the feet of Bruno Fernandes, into either of the wing backs, and potentially hitting, Bryan Mbeumo, maybe into the feet of Matheus Cunha or Mason Mount. United have gone from having no build-up structure to actually having a successful build-up structure in the first game, and that is something we learn. So let's take a look at one of those moments. So pick up the play exactly how we had it on the tactics pad. United building a back three with the goalkeeper and the two outside centre-backs, the centre-back Matthijs de Ligt in midfield, and Casemiro sitting next to him. And just look at the position of Bruno Fernandes. Again, this truly overloads the midfield for Man United. So as the ball's bounced in, there is pressure on Matthijs de Ligt's back. What I really like about de Ligt, though, in these moments, every single time he played really, really quick, he played a precise pass into the right space. Because as we can see here, the simple bounce off that centre-back allows Leny Yoro so much space. And then Yoro can simply carry out, and you've broken the pressing structure. And United are into the final third. This just would not happen last season. And it really is the second thing that we've learned in this game. United's build-up structure with a centre-back in midfield works. That is United in the final third. I've seen a lot of analysis breaking United down and saying this structure doesn't work because of blah, blah, blah. Sometimes tactics and formations and strategies is massively dependent on the player. Harry Maguire doesn't suit that position in midfield, Matthijs de Ligt does. These are slight things that allow United to play through one of the best high-pressing teams on the planet. And going back to the tactical point we mentioned before, if, for example, the team do press with both of their wingers, Arsenal played a little asymmetrical here. Saka played quite high and Martinelli a little bit low in this game for, to try and deal with United's build-up. But, for example, if both Saka and Martinelli press, there is out balls. As we mentioned previously, you can hit both of the wing backs in these wide areas, or alternatively, you play a long ball up and try and compete for the second ball to either one of United's forwards. There's a lot of options to play out. In fact, we saw a really good moment where Man United played a direct ball and then Bryan Mbeumo had a good chance. So we pick up the play once again with Bayern in possession. Just look at the positioning of both the left winger in Martinelli and the right winger in Saka. Both are committed high. As United move the ball around their back three, created with the goalkeeper, Leny Yoro could potentially carry out, but there is pressure in front of him, so he simply draws that and plays back. As you can see, United are drawing Arsenal on. This is really good football. And instead of Bayern kind of playing through Matthijs de Ligt, again, the option's closed. You've got Gabriel Martinelli in a better position. That bounce pass isn't really on. Goes direct into midfield. United take the ball down in the final third. They then compete and win the second ball. And United are in a great position here. So if Arsenal or teams decide to press United high with their wingers, United could get into these types of positions. Got to remember that midfield overload that we spoke about previously with Bruno Fernandes, Cunha, Mason Mount and Mbeumo allows you to compete for second balls quite well. And this is what we see here. Again, Mount getting his head up, playing the through ball to Bryan Mbeumo. Mbeumo clean for own goal, and the finish isn't great. Could be a little bit better, but the football, absolutely fantastic. And not only can United play that bounce pass into midfield and then progress with a carry, but if the wingers do drop back and sit into slightly deeper positions with one high, one low, like Arsenal did, there is still a ball from the goalkeeper directly into your number 10. This is why this overload is so good, because not only do you force, a centre-back into midfield to be basically a bounce player, but that pass to break the opposition's line is important. I think Matheus Cunha as well deserves a bit of credit for kind of dropping off or taking the attention of Zubimendi at certain times, because once again, that frees Bruno Fernandes to be in space in such a dangerous area. And United did this against Arsenal in the 33rd minute. Once again, we can see Arsenal's pressing structure with the right winger high, left winger low. Gyökeres putting pressure on the football, the two central midfielders picking up United double pivot. But again, this is a great pass from Bayındır. Why it's super annoying with Bayındır is he has lapses of concentration when dealing with set pieces. Quite frankly, in this game with his feet, he was really good. And United still do need to buy a goalkeeper, yes, but I like this pass. I've got to give him credit where credit's due. This pass is great. Bruno Fernandes is on the turn. Again, you've got that situation where no one's picking up Bruno because of the rotation of the forwards. And United are in the final third. They can go direct. Bruno goes over the top to Bryan Mbeumo, who battles, flicks the ball back, and Matheus Cunha has a shot on goal. All through United's build-up. Vast improvements from Amorim's side this season. Again, this was the build-up he used at Sporting that was really good. United just needed to get up to speed with it. And the third thing we learned is that Matthijs de Ligt is ready to play that centre-back position for Manchester United. Not only those bounce passes to free Lenny Yoro, defensively he was very, very dominant. His game by numbers was fantastic. 88% of his passes completed, 50 passes completed overall, 10 defensive actions, 8 duels won, 6 clearances, 5 aerial duels won 2 of his 3 tackles, had 3 shots, 2 blocks, and a key pass. Matthijs de Ligt can be this guy for Manchester United. I think this season he looks fresh, not only on the ball, but he looks defensively dominant as well. He's the answer for Manchester United. I was a little bit worried that United would once again have to go into the market and buy another centre-back for Ruben Amorim, but after this performance, I think it gives me confidence that Matthijs de Ligt could be that guy from Ruben Amorim. Spurs did the business for me on Saturday, getting me through to the next round of Final One standings, £500,000 jackpot game. Don't forget to stay in the mix by making your pick ahead of the weekend. But if you were knocked out or forgot the deadline, don't worry, there's a new game opening up on Tuesday. Just visit or download the William Hill app by scanning the QR code or by hitting the link below to get involved. Final One standing is simple. All you got to do is pick one team to win and you're through to the next round. If they fail to win, you're eliminated. The catch is you can only pick a team once, so it's important to use your brain and choose the right team for the right game week. Which brings on to game week 2, where Man United could be a great pick. The combination between their new pressing structure and the attacking intent that they showed against Arsenal, along with the fact that Marco Silva's side really struggled against Brighton, could be a great pick in the second week of Final One standing. I might go for United, could be a really good pick for you too. So if you think you've got what it takes, then click the link below and make your play. On to the fourth thing we learned is Amorim now has threat out wide on both flanks. Patrick Dorgu's development of Amorim's been fantastic and he's becoming one of the key attackers. His positioning against Arsenal was really good. It was high and it was wide. This is exactly what you want in a possession-based team. Your wingers or your wing-backs truly stretching the pitch, allowing Manchester United to overload areas with players dropping off, knowing that the fullback is being pinned by your left wing-back. The threat in behind has been very good for Dorgu in pre-season, but also in the game against Arsenal. But on the right-hand side as well, United had a true outlet in Bryan Mbeumo, a player that was pulling wide and again pinning the left-back. We saw some great moments with Manchester United. One of their ideas was definitely switching the play into the wide areas. Arsenal's shape is super compact, and that's one of its strengths, but it can get caught out with switches, either coming from a deeper position, or alternatively, what we saw quite a lot was, Casemiro or Bruno Fernandes getting on the ball and then playing those long switches, with Diogo Dalot arriving late before Amad Diallo's introduction in the game. With Amorim's system, it needs this width. There's another reason why it's going to work this season is because you've got 2 players in both wide areas that are going to create that. We've not even spoken about Amad Diallo, who I thought had a really good cameo, but just Bryan Mbeumo and Patrick Dorgu is going to improve United. And it was a common theme in the game, Dorgu hugging the touchline. We've got him highlighted top of shot, but just look how important it is for United. The ball gets flicked on, United deal with it, they punt a ball into midfield, which is intercepted. Not only does Dorgu have a bit of discipline here in terms of understanding he's got 2 teammates that can deal with this, and Mason Mount's energy and Luke Shaw's quick thinking to jump on Saka and intercept the ball, but as soon as United win the ball back, he is an outlet. And this seemed to happen time and time again in the game. United win the ball, they got a wide outlet. Super important for Amorim's tactics. And I love the confidence of Dorgu. Dorgu was a player last season that got so much criticism. The lad's 20 years old and he's just signed for a Premier League side, having spent most of his career in the lower leagues in Italy or playing in under-19s football in Italy. It's crazy that the judgment comes in after like 2-3 games. People need a lot more patience with Manchester United. That needs to happen this season. But Dorgu's been electric for me in the last few games for United. His confidence is starting to come. One of the big things that I loved about Dorgu when watching him at Lecce was that confidence on the ball, driving, committing defenders and taking them on. And we see this exactly here. Dorgu taking the ball, facing himself to drive directly at goal, flying on the outside and cracking a low shot with his left foot outside the box. This kid has got a really good sort of technique when it comes to striking the ball. He's a player that could score 10 plus goals in the Premier League if United create him the opportunities, or he creates them himself here. Dorgu with a great moment, long shot from outside the box, clips the bottom of the post. That would have been a brilliant individual goal. That all starts, if we rewind it, because he's wide. Because he's high and he's wide. He's stretching the opposition shape and team. A big thing for Ruben Amorim's Man United. And just one thing to highlight with Dorgu, Saka completed just one of his 6 dribbles against Manchester United. The second lowest completion rate of his career in the Premier League. Credit to not only Luke Shaw, as we saw in that moment there, but also to Patrick Dorgu, who won 4 of his 4 tackles. His improvements in attack and defence have been fantastic. Another benefit of that width is on the counter-attack. Both Matheus Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo stayed high, with Mbeumo holding the width, which allowed United to have a really good outball in the transition. And we saw this on 24 minutes. Arsenal on the attack with Ødegaard and Casemiro winning a brilliant tackle in his defensive third, but instantly getting his head up and looking to switch to the wide area. Once again, a theme in the game, using width to open up Arsenal's shape. This ball was great from Casemiro, but we can see that link of both Matheus Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo on the counter-attack together. This will be a weapon for Amorim's side on the break. In this situation, though, you're probably looking at a lack of game time between the pair on the pitch in the Premier League, which will improve. That did lead to Bryan Mbeumo cutting in, Cunha making a run, and Mbeumo firing a shot wide. You'd hope as that kind of relationship develops, Cunha will make that run, Bryan Mbeumo will spot that, and Arsenal could grab an equaliser in this moment. But once again, Amorim using width to open up oppositions, but having quality in that wide area, massively important this season. On to the next thing we learned. Bryan Mbeumo and Matheus Cunha look like excellent additions already. Other than scoring, they did everything right. The duo brought hunger, desire, physicality and direct running to Man United's forward line. On another day, they'd probably bag at least 1 goal. A lot of Manchester United's best play came from Cunha getting on the ball and carrying, dropping into deep positions to receive passes before turning and then driving through the heart of Arsenal's midfield. I think one of the things that's quite underrated about Cunha is his speed. He's got a good change of pace, good change of acceleration. Combined with that quick feet, it really allowed United to really transition quickly, playing direct passes into the forward line and then going into the final third. His chance on 32 minutes was breathtaking. Receiving in his own third, he turned, surged away from Declan Rice, held off the challenge from Zubimendi, dodged past Gabriel and raced away. If it wasn't up against the physical specimen that is William Saliba, Cunha probably get uncontested 1v1, which you'd expect that he scores. And his carry on 68 minutes created a great chance for Bryan Mbeumo. Once again, United building with that back three, Bayindir going long into the feet of Cunha. This first touch is absolutely world class. To Cruyff the ball on the bounce, to beat Ben White is simply sublime. And then the pace to get around him and drive through into the final third. Cunha is going to carry Man United's attack, literally from these types of moves. When into the final third, gets a head up, Bryan Mbeumo again threatening the back line on the far side, receives with Amad Diallo coming in. What I think United need to kind of work on is this combination between Amad Diallo and Bryan Mbeumo, in terms of you don't want both players coming on the inside. Here Amad's probably got to go on the outside to take a defender away from Bryan Mbeumo and open up a little bit more space. But what we see here is Mbeumo cut in, it get a little bit congested, and Arsenal make quite a good block which bounces away. There's a lot of progression with Manchester United when it comes to the passing, but also the carrying from Cunha, and his ability to turn defence into attack is going to be a massive asset for United. On to the final thing we learned during Manchester United versus Arsenal is midfield is still a massive problem for Manchester United. Finding a partner for Bruno Fernandes is going to be tough considering the market. Thought Casemiro played really well during his performance. I think he switched the ball well, he tackled really well, that challenge on Martin Ødegaard a real standout, but he still gave the ball away in a few moments. And Man Utd is a man that's just so out of confidence and form, and that pass back to Kai Havertz in the second half was a real head slapper. After some really good possession play from United, not checking his shoulder, not looking back, the switch is completely on to the right-sided centre-half. but he goes back and loses the ball in a really dangerous area. For Manchester United, this is an area they need to deal with. I think for me, number one, the best player United could get, of course, is Belieber at Brighton. Another brilliant performance, first game of the season against Fulham. But according to reports, it's a bit off the table. It's going to be next summer that Brighton are going to look to sell Belieber. Of course, the standout candidate for Manchester United is Adam Wharton in that position. A midfield of Belieber and Wharton in the future. That sounds fantastic. His quality in possession would be needed for United. His ability to kind of break those lines, to find passes is 10 out of 10. But if United don't really want to spend the money and they need to buy a goalkeeper, which I think is a real pressing concern, I'd rather United bought a goalkeeper than a central midfielder right now. If they could do both, fantastic. If they could do both, it means they're going to spend a little bit less money in that area. Hulman from Sporting Club de Portugal really fits Amorim's system, a good passer, but physically good. A player that can play box to box, that can run the yardage, that's good in the tackle, that would be good in the Premier League. Could be a really good option. Or finally, another player we spoke about previously, Agumi at Sevilla, scored again this weekend, but he's a player that would be almost a cheaper Belieber that's got a very similar skill set in terms of winning the ball back. Pretty decent passer as well. But United definitely need to sort out their central midfield position. It is a humongous problem at the moment, but not as more important as the goalkeeper. I think United could get through the season with their current midfield. I don't think they get through the season without a new goalkeeper. But anyway, guys, what did you make of the opening game for Man United? What did you learn? Get into the comments below. Do you think United need a goalkeeper more than a central midfielder, or more a central midfielder than a goalkeeper? I've been Statman Dave, of course. Check out Final One Standing, and we will see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, why not check out some more content on the Statman Dave YouTube channel?